everybody. Welcome to Life After Death and Beyond with Kellee White. And tonight, Liz Cook is my guest host. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Kellee. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
Yay, I'm so glad you're here. James is in Madrid with Janelle Campbell right now, and I think they're having the time of their lives. They're together. I think they're having so much fun. So tonight, we are going to say hi, James. Hey, Janelle. But we're going to have a show that we're so excited about because Liz is into tarot and she teaches a great tarot class. And how long have you been studying tarot?
Oh my gosh, I bought my first tarot deck that we're actually going to use tonight over 30 years ago. So I've been loving it and fascinated by it and studying it for 30 years.
Wow, that's amazing because I don't know much about tarot. So this is going to be really an interesting show tonight. And I'm going to be talking about the eclipses, the upcoming eclipses, because these are some powerful energies. Have you been feeling the energy, Liz?
I have. And I've been feeling them, and the cards have been feeling the energy too. I was telling you earlier that I was doing some readings over the weekend and the same cards kept popping up. And I was like, wow, why are these particular cards coming up all, for different types of people? And I was using different decks and the same cards showed up over and over and over. And then I realized, oh my gosh, as I was thinking about putting our talk together, for tonight, I thought, oh, that's why it's a foreshadowing of this transformation that's coming.
Yes, it is a foreshadowing. And I find what I'm finding is that many people are having really big dreams. And some of these dreams are all about like different totems that will come to them. But some of them have been a lot about snakes. So I'm kind of curious if anybody in the comments if they've either seen snakes or they've had dreams of snakes. Are snakes part of in tarot, like part of transformation? I mean, I know it means transformation, but in the tarot, do they represent that?
They do. Well, James and I created a course and we really talk a lot about all the symbols in the tarot. And there are some other symbols that I kind of think about as meaning, as, kind of indicating transformation more than the snake, because you don't see the snakes that much. But I mean, snakes are always a shedding of the skin, and especially like a shape, if a snake has its tail in its mouth, any sort of wreath or circle, is sort of that continuity, that infinity. But I think also of like the portals. There are doors and there are portals and there are towers and arches that you step through. And those to me really are that transformation. As well as water. I always think of water, the water in mountains as indicating that. And
sure.
If you've ever looked at a deck, you see that there's water and mountains in a whole lot of those.
Wow. And water brings up so much emotion. And we've got these eclipses. It's a lot of Pisces going on at the end of the month. So this is going to be really an interesting time. And people are having some nightmares, not necessarily snakes, but they're having nightmares. Yeah, these are some big things that I think we're all going to be having to reckon with whatever is in our psyche we have to deal with, I think, during these times. But I thought, why don't I start with the eclipses, and then you can go ahead and do a spreadsheet, a spread for us. Do a spreadsheet for us. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome to eclipse season. This is quite the time. And eclipse season is 2 weeks always. It's 2 weeks before the first eclipse, which our first eclipse is the 13th and 14th. And I'll explain that in a minute. And then 2 weeks after the second eclipse. So the second eclipse is March 29th. And 2 weeks after that, we will be feeling this energy. And that's approximately, I'm going to say April 14th or so. Approximately. But this first eclipse that we have is called, the first lunar eclipse is this, it starts on the 13th of March, like in the West, it'll be at about 9 p.m., but it goes into the 14th. So that's why I'm calling it between the 13th and 14th, depending on where you are located. And this is called a blood moon. And this blood moon that we're going to have is a really rare lunar eclipse because we have not had a full total lunar eclipse since November of 2022. So we're going to see this full moon take on reddish hues. It'll look like very red, get very red actually. And a lunar eclipse, when the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, and then the Earth casts its shadow on the moon. And because of the refraction of light, the moon appears to be blood red. I mean, we're going to see unbelievable experiences with this moon, with this lunar eclipse. And NASA is saying that the effect of the hues of the red are going to be painted on the moon by sunrises and sunsets. So I thought that was kind of a beautiful way to say this. And this is really interesting. Did you know, Liz, that 863 million people will see the blood moon?
Wow.
It will be seen in North America, all over North America, South America, including Hawaii and Alaska, Canada, Mexico. It will be visible in Chile, Argentina, Brazil. It's a big eclipse here with this. And I thought this was interesting, that the Galapagos Islands are going to have the best view.
Really?
And what's so bizarre, when I was talking about dreams, pay attention to your dreams, because a couple of nights ago, I had this dream of this like giant, I didn't know what it was. Like it was kind of not a snake, but it was kind of like I don't know, like a lizard, but I wasn't sure what it was, but it was giant, it had this giant head. Yeah. And this giant head turned to me and it said, Ecuador. And I'm like, Ecuador? What does that even mean? You know? So I literally Googled giant head lizard Ecuador, because I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it meant something. And what I didn't know, it was when I saw the picture, it was actually, it was a giant iguana from Ecuador, from the Galapagos.
Wow.
And the Galapagos is going to be the best view to see this eclipse. So everybody pay attention to your dreams, because of course I had to look up what iguana was. Like, what does that even mean as a totem? And it meant wisdom and courage. And I think these eclipses we're going to need a lot of wisdom, a lot of courage, frankly. These are large eclipses. Both of them are large, and they bring really a lot of transformation, which is what we're going to be doing the tarot about. But this first eclipse that I mentioned on March 13th and 14th, so it really starts in the Pacific Coast about like 9 p.m. Like Liz, where you are, start around 9 p.m. or so, and it will go into the about 3 in the morning. So this really hits the 13th and the 14th. And this eclipse in Vedic astrology, which is what I'm talking about, which is exactly where the planets are, it's going to be at 29 degrees in Leo. Now, you will hear me talk about the 29 degrees a lot this year, because do you realize that ever since November of 2024, every full moon we've had has been at a 29 degree, and which is unusual. All the way, this will happen again in April. It's highly unusual, but it's really symbolic, because 29, there are only 30 degrees per sign, and so 29 means it's on the verge of something, like something critical. The 29 degree means a critical degree or a degree of fate. So it's really important, because also this full moon eclipse, total eclipse at 29 degrees of Leo, is unusual in itself, because it's out of sign conjunction with Ketu, which means that it would have been a Virgo Pisces, but instead we're going to have a Leo Aquarius ahead of time, because the nodes don't change until mid-May. So it's unusual. We're going to get like a forewarning, if you will, of what goes on in April, May, June, July. It has a lot to do with this eclipse. So there are a lot of unusual situations with this particular eclipse that makes it very intense. So if you're already starting to feel the energy of intensity, I'm going to try to explain why. And Rahu and Ketu are the north and the south node. And again, they're changing in May, but we're going to get a kind of a glimpse of it with this first eclipse. So in addition to this eclipse at 29 degrees in Leo, in addition to that, we also have the Sun and Saturn conjunct in Aquarius at 29 degrees. There's that 29-degree mark again. Saturn's at 28 degrees, but it's close enough that Saturn is at 20. I'm sorry, the sun is at 29 degrees. And that's an omen again for transition. So we're looking at a few things here that will bring a lot of change. And Saturn is karma. Saturn is justice. So in addition, in Vedic astrology, we look at the houses that it's in. And we look at the constellations. And it's in the nakshatra called Uttara Falguni. And that's relationships, that's friendships, that's marriage, that's how do we relate to our partner. So here we go with the Sun-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius with no other planets impacting this particular eclipse. This could trigger a lot of ego clashes with bosses, with authority figures, with peers, with your father. If your father is still alive, could be fights with your father. It may be a time to reevaluate your career goals. So you may be ending a chapter in your career life. It's a very possible. But that nakshatra, Uttara Falguni, means self-reliant, and it means to go into deep contemplation, maybe rethink your commitments. Like, where do you put your time? Where do you put your energy? This is going to be something to really be thinking about the next few days. And also, it will, and I'm going to talk about on the world stage in a moment, but personally, finances will be a focus here. Health concerns. Maybe are you feeling out of sorts? Are you feeling pessimistic? Just remember this, something ends and something new begins. It's like clearing, let this unfold. Old chapters are ending, like old things that we don't need any longer are ending. And so everybody will be like reassessing their life, frankly. And if we look at ancient wisdom with this, the only way really to harness this power of these eclipses is to go inward. So this would be a great time on Friday, Thursday night, Friday, just to go inward, to do some really deep meditation would be great. Yoga would be great. Disconnect would be great. Keep your schedule light, because that's going to be really important. It's not the greatest day to travel for a lot of reasons, because one of them is Mercury will be retrograde soon. I think it's on the 15th. So it's already going to be stationing. So if you have to travel, just pack your damn patience. Just do that. Pack your patience. Okay. Just know that this is a big time, because in the world, eclipses are triggering points for change. So that's how we know things are going to change. And if you think about it, Liz, that we had a lunar eclipse on March 25th last year, 2024.
Okay.
And because lunar eclipses, things happen quickly. Like the solar eclipse, when we talk about that, is like months. But the lunar eclipse, that's pretty quickly. And we had an eclipse on the 25th, on the 24th, I should say. No, it was the 25th of March 2024. And a few hours later, on the 26th, there was that bridge collapse in Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of how a lunar eclipse works. It works with, you'll know something within 2 months, but certainly the next couple of days after that, something usually goes cattywampus, which is like my new favorite word, cattywampus. So, but also the moon in Leo and the sun in Aquarius. So this is where this eclipse is going to be. It represents balancing like individual expression with a collective systems and control. So key themes in the world will be power structures, struggle between personal freedom, group control. There can be a leadership crisis. Leo impacts the government. It brings changes in the political scene, upheaval, stock market instability, which we're already seeing. This is all energy of what's already happening. It brings social unrest. And the sun and Saturn represent opposing energies. So this powerful eclipse brings enormous transformation and change. And eclipses, again, they bring endings and new beginnings. So this is also going to be, energy will be very emotional. There's going to be a lot of emotions and sensitivity. So don't exert yourself, get a lot of rest, drink plenty of water, spend time at home. Just, rest. That's what I would say the best thing to do during this time is to rest. So did you want to do a spread for this?
Sure. Well, the first thing though, let's just say, first of all, do I need to postpone my tax appointment that was Saturday?
Is it really Saturday?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, it would. I don't think so.
Done is
No,
done, right?
done is done. I mean, just live your life the way you were going to do it. You already have the appointment, and the other thing is, this also has something to do with relationships. This period of time that we're in, so because also Venus is retrograde, and Venus also has a lot to do with finances. So you're right in it, Liz, at the right time. Just go in and remember that's the 15th is the Ides of March. Now, what I will say about that, what day are you going to have your taxes? This Saturday the 15th. So
Right.
Mercury is going to be changing. It's going to go retrograde, and it's going to be like standing still that day. So double check everything, like everything. You might forget things. You might, not sign something. Just pay a lot of attention, because that's the other thing with this energy makes people not in their bodies. Like I don't know if you've noticed about driving, like people are not
Yes.
driving, they're not paying attention. So many of my clients have already had accidents. It's kind of like, please, if you're going to drive, be very conscious of it, of what you're doing when you get into the car. Just be conscious of everything.
And that's always key. And it's funny that you're saying all of this, Kellee, because it could sound so concerning and ominous, but there's always a way out, and there's always that refresh. And that's how the tarot is as well. Some of the cards that symbolize transformation the most are the most ominous looking cards, like the Death card and the Tower card. But those cards are really about leaving something behind. One door closes, another door opens.
Yes.
You shed your skin like a snake, and you move forward into hopefully your higher self. So
yes.
There's never, at least with the tarot, I feel like there's never anything to be afraid of. It's just giving you insight, and insight is always good. Knowledge is power, and having that feeling like you have just that little extra guidance, I think, is so helpful.
Well, it is. Yeah, let's do a spread. Tell us what kind of spread you can do.
Okay, so what I'd love to do for as when I was thinking about, we're going to talk about the lunar eclipse. There's a spread called the Shadow and the Light spread. Ooh. And it's a 4-card spread, so it's a good simple one to do on a show like this. And what we're going to do is, I've had this deck since I started reading the cards, and what we're going to do is the first card we're going to shuffle real quick, and I'm just going to kind of think about the moon energy, and then the first card that I put down is going to indicate what part of myself, because the moon is all about, the shadow self, what part of myself has been hidden, what have I been pushing down or afraid to let other people see. And the second card is going to give us some insight as to how can I bring that into the light? How can I integrate that into my true self, into the light of day? The third card, which I'm putting down now, is what's the lesson that this is all teaching me? What is the lesson this transformation has to tell me? And the fourth is, what's the ultimate outcome, or how can I step forward into this transformation to really make the most of it? So I've laid the cards down. Let's just see what they are. So interestingly enough, the part that we've been shadowing, what this is indicating, it's the 3 of Cups, and cups indicate relationships and partnerships. So it's actually a very happy card. It's not really a very shadowy card. But what that could mean is, it could maybe mean, it could mean your fear of relationships. If you're, if it's in a place of, what is it that I'm holding back? This could be like, I've actually been afraid. I've had walls, and I've had trauma, and I've been afraid to open myself up to new relationships.
Well, and what this eclipse is about has a lot to do with relationships. If you're having struggles in your relationships, this stuff will come out now. So that's amazing, Liz, that card you just chose. That's amazing.
And then this is basically a journey. How can I integrate this part that I've been hiding into my day-to-day life? And this is the 6 of Swords, and swords are always about going out seeking the truth. Swords are about the intellect and the mind. And what this card is saying is, you really need to think, you can't be afraid. Swords are confrontational by their nature. And you can't be afraid to pursue it. Like, don't have fear, just go ahead and forge on. And, you see the water there, which is the sign of transformation in the mountains. So these are all the signs, some of the signs we talked about that really, indicate transformation.
Well, also the water also represents emotions. So really not being afraid to deal with your own emotions in a relationship too.
Well, there's emotions all over, because the cups too that's the suit of emotions.
Oh,
so the first card we pulled is about emotions, and then swords are about like going ahead and going forward and pushing forward and not having that fear of confronting the truth.
Okay. Wow. You're on fire here.
Yes. And then, this is so good. So what lesson is emerging from this eclipse? So the lesson that's emerging with this eclipse is you've got to go ahead and this is a card that I'd actually pulled out to talk about, which is a Two of Wands. And wands, I love, everybody loves the suit of wands because it's about like the higher self. It's about it. While the cups are about your emotions and your family, and the pentacles are about money and material things, and the swords are about the intellect and the search for truth and sometimes conflict. The wands are about, you got all that stuff covered. This is about finding yourself. It's like when you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's the higher part. It's self-actualization. It's finding the things that you're passionate about. And so this is about like being on a crossroads, and you see he's holding a globe and realizing that like the world is your oyster, and it's time to just go ahead and take the road less traveled, take that road that really lights you up.
Well, also the world really is in a situation. So that really is pretty interesting. The world, what is the world? What is going to happen in the world?
Exactly. So this card was in the position of what lesson is emerging. And the lesson is don't be afraid, kind of like the last card. Go ahead, go out and search for the truth and embrace that transformation. Okay.
Wow.
And then let's see what we have. And I don't know what these cards are going to say as much as you do, but oh my gosh. So James can't be with us in person, but this is sort of the card that we always associate with James, which is the Magician card.
And this my gosh. That is totally James, the Magician card.
Oh my gosh. It is so him, right? And what the magician brings with him, and I know it's really hard to see, especially because I'm holding it funny.
No, I can see it.
Okay. Yeah. So the magician brings with him all of the power of all the suits. So you see the swords, the cups, the wands, and the pentacles. He's kind of got access to it all. It's like when you know a person that's good at everything, right?
Yeah.
So the magician can conjure up power from every area of the tarot, and he can make things happen with it. So how do you step forward into this transformation most powerfully? Well, use everything at your disposal and have this faith and this confidence that you can make things happen. You can ignite change. You can ignite things. So,
wow.
Very, very cool. Very appropriate. I love when it all fits together. And, sometimes you have to think and you have to use your intuition, but these cards are really very clear.
Whoa. I mean, that's really a wonderful spread for us going forward. And it really hits the nail on the head.
I know. Isn't that wild? I love when that happens. It doesn't always. I mean, sometimes you really have to really like make it work.
Wow. But what deck is that?
This is a really old deck. It's the Robin Wood Tarot. I mean, I've had this. I bought it in Sedona years and years ago. And it's kind of cool. It really is. It's similar to the Rider deck. The symbols and everything are kind of the same, but I think it's a little more artistic. I really like it.
Oh my gosh. Wow, Liz, thank you for that. That's amazing. And before we go any further, I think we have a message from James, I think.
We do?
Renee, don't we have something
James
here?
From Praagh, from the JVP School of Mystical Arts. And I want to share with you today a very special course that I have called Intuitive Tarot. I always want to know how to read tarot cards or what the symbols meant and all the different cards. So I've created a course for you to gain insight into how to use tarot, kind of everyday choices you make, and what these symbols mean for you and for other people. It'll enhance your intuition, and it really gives your mind a place to go to when you look at these cards and the different spreads that you can create. It's an incredible world. It also opens you up to that sense of knowingness. And the more you start using tarot, understanding tarot, and the symbols behind them, it really does enhance your life experience. Check it out, please, at the JV School of Mystical Arts, the Intuitive Tarot. You won't be disappointed. It's all in the spread.
Wow. That's quite a class you guys have.
Oh, it's a great class. We had such a good time putting it together and recording it, and it really gets into all the ways that you can, for me, I don't have the best memory in the world, and memorizing 78 tarot cards, which is what's in a tarot deck, is kind of challenging. And there are definitely ways to do it one card at a time, and you'll do that over time. But there's a shortcut, which is understanding the symbolism between the suits and the symbols on the cards and the elements that you see. And there's so many things, the genders, because genders in the cards, like in the queens and the pages and the kings, they're not gender specific. I mean, they're very, very fluid, and they really represent energy, not actual, you're going to meet a tall, dark, handsome man.
Right.
It can be, the energy of the king of swords or the king of cups. So we had a great time doing it. And I think, and then James injected all of this intuition into it. So you really understand how to read the cards intuitively. And that helps the students really instantly be able to pick up a deck almost immediately and start making sense of the readings and start
that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you, Liz. So everybody sign up. You can sign up here for the course, which is at James's school. So please sign up for the course. And is it a good time to divorce? I'm being asked. There will be a lot of relationships that will go through all kinds of deep changes right now. The next eclipse that I'm going to talk about brings in just a tremendous amount of change in relationships, if that is what is needed. So we're going to see a lot of things, a lot of changes actually here. But we have a second eclipse, and so we've got the first eclipse, which is coming up 13th and 14th. And then we have another rare eclipse, because this time could not get stranger, on March 29th. And so March 29th, we have a solar eclipse. And this is going to be a really rare solar eclipse because it's a planetary conjunction in Pisces, which means we will have 7 planets, including Saturn. It eventually gets there that day during the eclipse in Pisces. And that is highly unusual. One time we had 4 planets in 1968 in April. And if you remember what happened in 1968 in April, we had 4 planets in Pisces. And that was the assassination of Martin Luther King. So these are big, this is big energy. And all of these planets are aspecting Ketu, the south node, and that's going to amplify this energy. So we have the sun in Pisces, Rahu, the north node in Pisces, Saturn that will be joining the party that day, Moon in Pisces, Venus in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces. That's unheard of. It's just unheard of. And it's really weird, Liz, but if you look at on March 29th, that's a solar eclipse is the new moon. It's the first new moon, this new moon. And in astrology, we look at the first new moon in Pisces, and that will tell you what the rest of the year is going to be like. So you wouldn't even have to do another chart for anybody. You could just go, let me look at March 29th, just what was that new moon like? Oh, here we go. And this is a big time. It's really large. It's a rare solar eclipse. So this is a really powerful eclipse, and this is going to bring great change, great transformation. People will feel a lot of emotion, including irritability, mood swings, anxiety. So Pisces is a water sign, and it's the last sign of the zodiac, which indicates an end or a completion. And so this could impact the world with water-based calamities, storms, floods, earthquakes, strange weather patterns, waterborne infections. This is going to be, it's very deep. Now the sun will be in the Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. Say that 3 times. And it brings an inner desire, if you will, to clear everything and to get your strength. And it brings spiritual depth. So this eclipse signals a major transition Whether it's in relationships, it could be because because Venus is going to be in Pisces retrograde. So it could bring old people back into your life, maybe to heal with, or to let go of, or to set boundaries with, or some sort of something to do. And this eclipse is really complex because Mercury is going to be retrograde in it. So we've got 7 planets. Remember, in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces is also going to be retrograde, and it's going to be combust the sun, which means it's too close to the sun, which makes it debilitated and it makes it weak and confusing. So if you can, please don't travel on the 29th. It is going to be one of those days you probably should just stay home. And in fact, in Vedic astrology, the ancients always believed that energy from eclipses was not good energy. So it's not, please don't be putting your crystals out and making moon water and doing all of that. It is not the time to do that. And currently, Rahu is very close to Mercury, and Rahu is the north node, and it's really close to Mercury and Venus, and that takes the energies of all of these planets. So all of these planets are going to be affected by this energy, and it brings frustration. It brings fear. It brings confusion. It brings, in the world, societal changes. It changes technology. But let me tell you what it is excellent for, because we came to Earth. I mean, I say this every chance I get. We wanted to be here because this is the time that will force us to go inward, force us to become more spiritual and be more conscious of others through compassion or kindness or forgiveness. This is why we came to Earth. And you're thinking, I did not sign up for this. And I'm like, yeah, you did. Everybody did. You just did. But so this is going to be a great, great opportunity to go inward and find your balance and focus on yourself and be aware of your consequences, like of the actions of your actions, because the theme is going to be coming back to complete something that maybe was uncomfortable and then starting fresh with renewed energy. So again, it brings mass conflicts. So there'll be a lot of conflicts, a lot of protests. There'll be spiritual transformation. So there will be a lot of solutions, because Jupiter, which is solutions and the spiritual teacher and really, really good things, Jupiter is going to be actually aspecting Ketu. So there'll be a lot of really good solutions that come through all of this stuff. So the other thing is we may see a lot of UFOs because all those planets in Pisces, that has unexplained. It's like an unexplained phenomena, actually. So again, this month brings a lot of challenging energy, but it will really help us to focus inward for deep spirituality, have faith, growth. Things will be revealed. Like Pisces has a way of revealing things, and so people will have a lot of deep emotions, and a dramatic change is possible here. I mean, really make us a lot of possibilities of change, because this is going to be seen as a real deep spiritual time. And so it may seem rocky on the outside, but go inward. If you are, go inward for that great stillness. It's easy to be spiritual when things are easy. But when times are serious, then you really get challenged on your spirituality and finding faith and having faith. So there you go. So this is a big time, as they say. This is a big time.
And I think when things are challenging, sometimes it's nice to have a little guidance. And that's why the tarot can be, to me, very, very, very helpful, whether it's to give you, a sign that, hey, things might be rough and rocky ahead, or usually I've never done a spread where there's not a glimmer of hope and optimism.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us, what kind of spread are we going to do for the March 29th eclipse?
Ooh, that's scary. The spread that I'm going to do is called the Phoenix Rising spread. And I think it's really appropriate for a solar eclipse solar eclipse. And it's a 3-part spread. And we're going to look at what part of me is being transformed? That's going to be the first card. I'm just going to kind of get a little sun energy, some thoughts around the sun, switch us over from moon mode. And then what do I need to release? Because you can't transform, everyone knows. I mean, obviously you can't change without letting go of something.
Right.
And then the third card is the card of like, what do I have to gain? And again, like just a reminder for tarot, you may find a really positive card in a place that, you wouldn't expect, or a negative card is what do I have to gain? And it might be something that you wouldn't intuitively think is positive. But we're going to talk, if that happens, just a preview, sometimes that happens. And that just means you have to just really think about it. And sometimes with cards, you want to really, we may have a real obvious, the cards may be really obvious, like the last ones, we knew exactly what they meant, or they may be a little more mysterious. And I almost like that better, because like sometimes I was doing readings over the weekend and there was one that didn't really make sense. And then I woke up this morning and I knew exactly what it meant. And what was funny about the weekend, you were talking about it needing to be a time of rest.
Mm-hmm.
And the card that kept coming up for me over and over was this Four of Swords, which is a card that means kind of a resting. It looks like a death, but it's not a death. It means you need to rest, or you have been resting, or you've been in hibernation and now you need to come out of it. It indicates all of those things. Well, I did 3 readings this weekend and it showed up in a really key position in every single one of them.
Wow. So people are needing that. They are needing
rest. Yeah. And the Fool was another one that came up. And the Fool is the number 0 in the major arcana. And it's the beginning of the journey. And the Fool, so as you said, you have to start over, start fresh. And that's what the Fool indicates. So isn't it funny that with this timing, those were the cards that kept coming up?
Wow. Yes.
So now, with no further ado,
I'm so excited.
Let's do our Phoenix Rising spread and see what we get. Okay, so this is what part of me is being transformed. Oh, this is interesting. So we got the Death card, which of all the transformations. So the Death card isn't really telling you what part of you. It's saying it's basically going to be. It could be the death of habits, of a habit or a pattern. It could be the death from what you were talking about, maybe of a relationship. It could be or the end of a relationship, but it could just be a death of your way of being. You could be, not being such a people pleaser. You could be, doing something differently, not just focusing on family and work, but starting to focus on your own enlightenment, your spirituality. So let's see what the other,
that's absolutely right with that. I mean, it's just the end of the old, and then, we're on earth to change, to make constant changes. So it's the end of something.
And I think this is such this particular Death card is so beautiful, because usually you see the Grim Reaper, but you see in this one, it is the Grim Reaper, but
it's a Red Reaper.
The Red
Reaper. The Red Moon.
Like the Red Reaper, and he's got the white rose behind him, which is a sign of rebirth.
Wow.
So it's not just death, it's just a part of the cycle. And now let's see what we got as far as what we have to release. Oh, okay. So this is the 9 of Wands. And the 9 of Wands, James and I always talk about this card as being, you're sort of in a cage of your own making, right? So it's releasing the things, and the Wands are about inspiration. So it's not a negative card, but it's just like, you can get out of your own way, basically, is what this card means. And since it is a wand, it's like, and this is not about your finances. This is not about your relationships. It's really about your relationship with yourself.
And one of the things you said, it's about intuition. Mm-hmm. Because right now, our intuition will be challenged. Use your intuition. Yes. If you find yourself stuck in the field, boxed up or caged up, use your intuition. Figure out what you need to do to make a change. That's what all of this is saying.
Right. And maybe because, I always think with the cards that have to do with it. So this is great. Okay. So what do I have to gain from this? This is another classic transformation card, which is the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man is all about looking at things differently, approaching things differently, but with this peace, like, allowing things to happen, having this serenity. The Hanged Man is a very, very spiritual card. This guy doesn't really have it, but sometimes he'll have a halo around his head. But it's this sort of you're transcending the discomfort and the fear of everyday life, and you're just at peace with your transformation. So again, we didn't have to really think that hard with this one either. This one really made sense. But I love the Hangman. That's actually my personal favorite card because it's just it's like life is all about change. Life is unexpected. Things happen, but being able to approach them with grace, he's such an optimistic, hopeful, beautiful card to me.
That's perfect, because that really is what this is about.
Yeah.
It's about making changes in your life where it's needed, and moving forward. And that does show a lot of hope. It shows a lot of peace with it. Definitely everybody needs to be using their intuition out there.
Right. And
Wow.
and just sort of having that sense of faith, that sense of hope that you can navigate this. And funny thing about the tarot cards, you don't always have to just draw one and be surprised. Sometimes I'll pull a card on purpose. Like I'll go looking for a card and just have it on my desk and just use it to reflect and meditate, throughout the day. So if you feel like there's a card, and I can make some suggestions, but there's a card that makes you feel strong, like the Strength card or the Fool. If like, hey, I want to have optimism. I want to be able to try something new in this like optimistic, positive way. Take this card and, like James always says, put it in your pocket. But I always prop it up. I'll just prop it up on my desk and think about it throughout the day. And it just gives you this strength. That's
a great idea. Now, can you meditate with them as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I like to journal in the morning, and I'll pull a card first. And just the question I typically will ask the card is, what energy do I need to bring to what's happening today?
Yeah.
And it's just a really simple question. And you pull a card and you might pull the Magician card, which is like, hey, razzle dazzle and do it all. And,
right.
You might pull the Four of Swords and be like, hey, maybe take a nap,
Right.
Or you may take the Hermit, which means, go within yourself.
Wow.
Or the High Priestess, step into your power, step into your intuition. But no matter what card you get, even if it's one of the minor arcana, less popular cards that you don't necessarily know, go ahead and look it up if you want, or just take a look and just look at the symbols on the card and see what it says to you.
Wow. If somebody wanted to buy cards, what's a good way to know how to do that?
Well, it's funny is like a lot of things, there is always this sort of, there's like rules around how to do your tarot stuff, right? Yeah. So you're not supposed to buy, for a long time, people said, oh, you're really not supposed to buy your own deck. It should be a gift. I was like, well, who's going to give you a tarot deck?
Right.
I give them as gifts all the time, but most people don't. So you absolutely can buy them. But I like to go, there's a spiritual bookstore around here, and they have lots and lots of tarot cards. And I like to go and sort of see what speaks to me. But sometimes I'll go onto Amazon, or there's lots of tarot stuff on Instagram, and you'll see different cards that they use, different decks. So there's so many.
Wow.
I have, like, one of my kids bought me a gummy bear tarot card deck. And I have a pug tarot card deck, and I have a crow deck, because crows are so cool and mystical. And that was one that really like jumped out at me from the table of tarot card decks.
How cool.
And it gives the best readings. There's a goddess deck. There's so many.
So whatever anybody's in the mood for, whatever they feel that they're drawn to, kind of like crystals.
Totally. And I also think when you're doing a reading, I kind of try to pick a deck that makes sense. First of all, for what, like if I feel like someone's kind of coming in with dark energy, I'll use a lighter deck, like the gummy bear deck, because he never lets me down. It's always pretty positive.
That's a smart idea.
Yeah. And then, sometimes like if it's a woman who's trying to come into her power, or somebody, I don't know, sometimes the goddess deck works really well. And then sometimes you just want the traditional rider. Yeah. So you get, like you really let your intuition guide you every step of the way, from what deck to pick, from what the cards mean. And when you're pulling cards, you can always, if you have a question about one and it just doesn't make sense, you can lay another one on top of it for like additional clarity.
That's fantastic. Gosh, Liz, this is great. And people they should take your class.
They should. And the lighting is much better in the class.
Yeah. Looks like the sun is just coming back behind you.
Coming down, and my light is
There you go.
Sorry. But the class is a lot of fun. We have a good time with it. We actually are starting the second session of the class. So the first session we had live calls, and we weren't going to do more live calls going forward. We were just recording them. So when you get the second, but we decided, you know what, they were so much fun and we had such a great time, and people's had such amazing intuitive insights about the cards, the students, because They're very interactive and they're relatively intimate. We had 40 or 50 people on each call, and you really got a chance to talk to people and get to know people. And James and I had so much fun, and everyone did. But we did readings for people. We let people do readings for other people. It was,
Yeah.
and every live session, we talked about, new aspects of the tarot. But if you were to purchase it now, you would get 2 live sessions again. Like we went ahead, and added some live sessions to the next round.
It would be a great idea. I mean, again, with 7 planets lining up in Pisces, which means deep spiritualism, deeply spiritual time. This would be a great class, because what tarot does is it helps you to go deep, helps you go deeper.
It's
so I think that's
meditative. Yeah,
Oh yeah, it'd be great for that. Oh my gosh. Well, and I'm teaching a class on autism. So if you know anybody, or if you are on the autism spectrum, or you are autistic, or if you know somebody that's living with autism, I'm teaching a class with Praagh Avalon. It's a transformative 3-hour journey, and it is going to be on April 5th at 11 a.m. on Zoom. It's just 3 hours, and it's going to be an immersive experience, and we're going to be talking about understanding and supporting and thriving in this. We're going to help you understand what autism is, and we're going to talk about the unique gifts that the autistic world, the individuals have in this world, because they really are extraordinary souls here that come to Earth. They're not from around here. They're just wonderful beings of light. So if you'd like to take that class with us, you'll have a lot of practical strategies and tools to deal with this, because it's important here. And so we'll be talking about it from a spiritual standpoint. So that's the first class. The second class I'm teaching, because it's one of those months, is Crystal Connections with Julie Ann Siegel. And this is on April 26th. So if you really want to learn about unlocking energy and harmony and design, please take our class. It's April 26th. And we're going to talk about each crystal, what it means. We're going to talk about feng shui placement with the crystals, and which is really a great thing of where to put them to enhance, balance and prosperity and all kinds of things. So, and then we're going to have crystals in design. So please, if you are a crystal lover, or if you're new to crystals, please join us on April 26th. So there are a lot. Oh, and I have one more thing.
But there's more.
Oh my God. I'm on June 20th to the 23rd in Burbank, California. I will be hosting, along with Dr. Shirley Impellizzeri and Carrie Gonia, The Roots of Healings, the Game of Life. And it's a retreat. It's a 3-day retreat, transformative and intimate. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about spirituality and doing readings. And Carrie Gonia is going to be talking about family constellation therapy. We're going to talk about that. And then Shirley's going to be doing shadow work and the mind-body connection with somatic work too. She's a wonderful therapist. So deep healing, we're going to help with ancestral trauma and emotional blocks, and it's going to be an extraordinary experience. If you'd like to come out, if you're going to be in the Burbank, California area, June 20th to the 23rd, please join us. So Liz, lots going on.
Wow, that last one sounds fantastic.
It's going to be great. You should come and join us. It's going to be really, really, really fun. It's going to be great. So anyway, well, Liz, thank you so much for joining us tonight with this great tarot. Fascinating. It's fascinating, everything. And everybody, just remember, this is a deeply spiritual time. So be patient, be loving, be kind to everybody you meet. All right.
And don't forget to rest.
And don't forget to rest. Oh, and drink a ton of water. You're going to need water and rest. All right. Take care, my friends. Thank you, Liz, so much.
Thank you, Kelly. This was fun.